Hey, hey. Woo, child. I need to get a theme song for the show so that I don't have to randomly find songs. But this is actually a really good beat, so I'm gonna have to save this. Welcome, everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm gonna turn this off. But I'm gonna have to save this and remember this. I like that beat. That was a good beat. Welcome, everybody. I'm gonna give it a couple of minutes for people to come in and then we will get started. I hope everybody is having a good week. I hope everybody's having a good night. I hope everybody's having an overall good life. I am always hoping for that. So, welcome. Thank you for joining me on YouTube and thank you for joining me on Instagram. If you're on Instagram and you're not following me on YouTube or subscribed on YouTube, please go to Fuck Your Feelings, the show on YouTube and subscribe. And if you are on YouTube and you're not subscribed to Instagram, please go on Instagram and subscribe to Fuck Your Feelings, the show. Your support is appreciated. This has become like therapy session for me. And before I get into the show, I'm actually going to have a moment of silence for my father. It is his birthday today, and my father passed away a year ago. And so I'm just going to have a moment of silence for him before I start the show. And go. So happy birthday to my daddy, wherever he is. Hope he's in heaven, because the alternative is not so great. But happy birthday to my daddy, to my superhero, to my first love. So now, let's get into the show. My single season and when I will know it's time to move on. And that's something I've been thinking about recently is that question like, girl, when are you going to know it's time to move on? When are you going to know it's time to move on? And are you ready to date? Are you not ready to date? What does it look like if you're dating? What are you really looking for? Like, there's all these questions that happen, and it's been a while since it feels like it's been a while since I've been single. For some people, it might not be a long time, but I was in a relationship for almost 3 years. And then that was during COVID, which doubled. So it's almost like a 6 year relationship during COVID. COVID was tough. And hunkering down with somebody during COVID was something else. So that relationship, we always said the relationship felt longer than it was. And so now I'm in a space of what does a single season look like? So that's what the first question I had to ask myself was, what does a single season look like? And I'd be curious for those of you who've had your single season recently, what that's looked like for you, because, a single season 10 years ago isn't necessarily a single season today. So much has changed in the world, especially when it comes to social media and access, right? Like, people have access to us in a way today that they didn't have 10 years ago, 15 years ago, definitely 20 years ago. So with all of this access and social media and the different dating sites and the swiping and the hookups that can happen from, people who would have not crossed each other's path, what does a single season look like? And I've had to contemplate that. And what would my single season look like? And did I need a single season? Was a single season necessary? Or could I just kind of move on? Like, just say, okay, girl, this is over. Because again, one, I have a show called Fuck Your Feelings. Right? Like, And as much as I know that my last relationship needed to end, I can tell you it hasn't stopped the hurt and the pain. Um, and one of the things that I realized why I wasn't ready to move on was the fact that I still get triggers. There are still triggers for me that I have. Um, and some of those triggers are around dates that happen, or dates that were supposed to happen. Um, and so tomorrow, October the 18th, would be a year from my wedding date. So my wedding date was October 18th, 2024. October 18th is the day me and my ex met. Our wedding was going to be basically the 4-year anniversary of the day we met. And it was going to be the day after what would have been my father's 80th birthday. And we were going to have a whole thing for my father, which would have been a year from now because my dad's birthday's tonight. There was going to be a whole kind of thing at our wedding reception that was dedicated to my father. I had talked about like releasing butterflies or doves or something. Like we were still in the planning stages, but there was things that we were going to do. And so dates are triggering to me. I don't know how I'm going to feel tomorrow. Our anniversary, our 3-year anniversary is next Saturday. I don't know how I'm going to feel next Saturday. And that's when I realized for myself that, girl, you need to stay in your single season. Because how do I move on with someone when dates from my past, which also could have been my future, is something that is triggering to me? Like I feel saddened by it. Like there's a starting over for me, right? Like I am a year from what would have been my wedding, and now I'm years from maybe the potential of getting married again. So that's been interesting. I know that for me, the single season shouldn't be. My single season shouldn't be me running around dating a whole bunch of different men. But then I also question to myself, is that not the best way to get over him, is to start dating again? Is that unfair to me as I go through the healing? Is it unfair to the men that are potentially trying to court me because I am still triggered by certain aspects of that past relationship, and therefore can I truly appreciate the courting? Right? It's funny, I was explaining to my ex the other day that not my most recent ex, another ex that I still speak to, and I told him, like, I feel like I'm in a tug of war, right? Like there is one side of me that, like, one day I feel this way, and then on the same day, like 20 minutes later, I'll feel another way, and it's a constant tug of war, like push pull with myself in terms of like, girl, of course you get out there and you move on and you date and you live your best life, and then there's like, girl, you're not ready to do that, and you should not subject a man to having to deal with the fact that you are going through grief. And then it's like, girl, but how are you going to ever get over this if you're just sitting at home? And like it's this kind of struggle and this push and pull. And to be honest with you, I thought this would be easier. I did. I thought this would be easier. I thought the fact that I had already reconciled in my mind that October 18, 2024 couldn't be because of the fact that we were going different directions in life, um, I thought it would be easier, and it's not. I have to be honest, there are days I'm really pissed off at my ex because he moved on so quickly. He, I'm mad. There are days that I'm actually mad. I get it. I always said to him that if we broke up, he would likely move on. And I mean, he moved on backwards to his children's mother, which was the smartest thing for him to do because he should not subject that type of level of crazy onto anybody else. But then that makes me angry. This is the first time I've actually admitted this out loud. Now I'm doing so to all of you, right? It's actually made me angry. Like there's part of me like, how dare you, right? We had something so amazing, and how dare you, um, like sully that by just fucking moving on like it's nothing. And I'm sitting here going through this single season. Yet at the other side of it, it actually makes me happy because then I know that there is no way I would ever get back with him. Like, absolutely not. Like, had he remained single, or had he even moved on and I found out he moved on with somebody like new, I would feel differently. But moving backwards to someone who was a thorn in the side of our relationship, um, it means that we'll never get back together. Like, absolutely not. Not God himself would have to come down from heaven and tell me that is my only way to get to heaven would be to do that for us to get back together. And so there's part of me that, again, it's that tug of war. There's part of me that's like, oh, and then there's part of me that's like, thank God, because you made it so much easier that we can never go back together. Like, never in life will this ever happen. Because you exposed yourself to be someone that I don't even recognize, and I could never love, because the man that you showed in that moment was not the man that I was with for that period of time. And so going through the single season has been interesting. Part of it, I think, is if I'm honest, I'm trying to find myself again. I don't think you realize how much of yourself you kind of lose a bit in a relationship. And sometimes that's for a good cause, right? Because I think there's got to be balance. There's got to be a balance in relationships. And I felt as if I definitely dimmed my light a little bit to allow him to shine. I think sometimes that's necessary. Like, and we used to talk about that. And I talked about in my book, No Handouts for Black Girls, right? Just because the other person is shining doesn't mean that that's not good for you. Like, it was always like whenever he was shining, whenever he was on the show and he would like make these jokes and, you know, the audience would respond and people would be like, oh my God, like that actually made me happy because I know it was him coming into himself, and that made me happy. And sometimes I had to, take a step back in order for that to happen. But as I'm coming in this phase, I realize like there's so much of myself that I lost. And I'm trying to regain that person. Like, I've gone through times where I don't even recognize like myself physically, where I was like, girl, like what the hell? Like if you've watched the show over the last few months, I think I've changed my hair like several times. There was one weekend, like I did my hair like 3 times in like 2 days. Yeah. And I do my hair myself. And so it's not like someone else is doing everything that I do. Every basically hairstyle you see me on here with, I've done it myself. And so it's hours of my time. And there are times I'm like, you don't recognize yourself. And so for me, it's like the single season's like regaining who I am. And I don't blame my ex for any of that. That was me. That was a Toshiba decision, right? And so I'm in this space where I'm learning who I am again, and I am figuring out how to be the best version of me, because when I get out of this single season, anyone who is intentionally courting me deserves the best version of me. Ladies, stop going into situations broken. Like, you can't, like, it's nobody else's job to fix us. It is not a next man's job to fix me. That is unfair to anybody to expect them to fix me or help fix me. Like, yes, it's nice, but this expectation that they're supposed to take us with all of our baggage. And I mean, let's be clear, the older we get, the more baggage we have. Let's just call it what it is. Because we've had heartbreaks and marriages and divorces and children and death in our family, and there's all of this backpack of stuff that we carry into these relationships. And so you have to go into situations healed. You have to go into situations prepared to be the best version of yourself. And I know with the fact that I'm still being triggered by dates and things from my past, like I had to go through and erase a bunch of pictures of us today because I was putting actually something together for the show, and I have pictures of us and him uploaded, and I was like, I gotta get rid of these, right? Like it's these are still triggers for me, because it's reminding me of the past. And as I go through this single season, I need to not be reminded of that because I'm supposed to be moving forward. What's funny is I was reading an article preparing for the show, and something that they said that I plan to do, and I probably will do it this weekend or next, is part of a healing of getting over a breakup is to write a letter to your ex, but you actually don't send it. And I remember when I got into therapy a few years ago, and I was, talking about some of the stuff that had happened. And I remember that was something that I did, is I wrote a email, quote unquote, letter to significant people in my life. And I had to release things that I felt about them and what had happened in that relationship. Like one of them was I wrote a letter to my grandmother because I didn't realize I was upset at her for dying. And I thought, how selfish of me, right? But I was actually upset at her for dying, and not giving me that one last moment with her that I felt that I needed. And so I wrote that letter. I still have them in my drafts of my email. This was years ago. And I wrote that letter. And so that is definitely something that I'm going to do. I'm going to write a letter to my past, and I'm going to write a letter to my future self. Well, but interesting enough, there is a website called futureme.org. I believe it's .org. And I've done it a couple of times where I write a letter to my future self, and then you send that letter to yourself. You choose the date, and then that letter comes to you. And I wrote that letter a few years ago, and it's actually what started me on this journey of creating these shows and content creation. I got a radio show out of it. Like, I got a bunch of different things because I realized I was working so hard, realizing other people's dreams, and I wasn't doing the same for myself. And writing that future letter for myself got me 2 shows, a radio show, 9 books, working on my 10th book, like learned all of these skills, got different certifications, like went back to school. I got not a degree, but I got a certificate in women's entrepreneurship through Cornell. Like, I did a bunch of stuff just writing a letter to myself, and realizing how much of my life I wasn't living because I was focused on living for other people. And that happened in like 2020, and it's not even 2024. And damn, I just realized that. I just had to stop and realize all the things I've accomplished since 2020. Since January 1st, 2020, I've been so busy, focused on so much stuff. Since January 1st of 2020, I started 2 shows. I have a radio show. I wrote and published 9 books that I have on the market. I got a certificate in women's entrepreneurship. I did a whole bunch of other courses as well. I learned how to edit and do videos. I really became a bit of an expert in social media. I started on a women's committee. I really ramped up my consulting. I moved, came back, started this amazing job. Like, I want everybody to really stop and think about all the things that you've done. I think sometimes we focus so much on what's not going well in our lives. And I just had a moment to think like, damn, like I wrote and published 7 books in 363 days. That's pretty damn big. I wrote from scratch and published 7 books in 363 days. I don't know anyone else who's ever done that. And I give myself a hell of a hard time. So while I'm sitting here going through this moment of like, ugh, girl, like your life, I should be like, damn, girl, your life. If you've ever met someone who has written and published 7 books in 363 days, let me know. Because I need to connect with that person, because I'm the only person I know that's ever done that in my life. But yet I give myself such a hard damn time. Why am I doing that? Sorry guys, I'm actually having a moment. Like, why am I doing that? It's funny because in my book, I talk about, I'm actually going to get the quote because I have my book right here on my bookshelf. So if you guys don't know, this is one of my books called No Handouts for Black Girls. And a quote that I had in the beginning of the book is, I say this quote. It's funny, I wrote it. I've written so many books and I forget this quote, but it's a really good quote. And it's funny that this book was dedicated to Black women, and the dedication was to the Black woman who wakes up every day to face a world that refuses to see her in her entirety. This is for you. I see you. I feel you. I am you. You got this. And there is a quote that I have in here right in the beginning where I talk about, here it is. So the quote I have in the beginning of the book is, living in a world that wants me to be average when I was born rare. It's funny, I've been treating myself like I'm average, and I've been going through, like, this is not the show that I thought I was going to do tonight, just so you're aware. I've been running around in a world being average. And there's nothing average about me. And I think, and this is not me trying to have an ego trip. Like, I just stopped and thought about everything I've done in less than 4 years. And it's a phenomenal list of things. It is not to mention the hundreds of entrepreneurs that I've helped. And I have testimonials from a lot of them with the work that I've done, how I've inspired them, and all of these things. I've done some great work, and I'm walking around the world as if I'm just average, and I'm not. And I'm not. But you know what? The funny part about it is, that's why I keep saying on the show that I refuse to have a man pump and dump in me that doesn't care about me after he comes, because I know the value that I have. I know the value that I bring. I know that. And that's something I never want myself to forget, because it's so easy for me to forget it because I'm going through all of this grief. You guys have no idea. Like, I feel like the last year of my life has been just like a roller coaster of just bumps and turns. And yes, there are amazing things happen, but it's like, stop, pause, okay, you're good. You know what I'm saying? Like, I lost my first love, my father, and that threw me for a loop. Then I lost the man I thought I didn't lose him, but you know what I'm saying? It is still a loss. It's still grief. And I've had to come in and completely change my life. And during the process, I was so focused on all of these loss that I didn't think about all of the gains that I've had. Like, this book is a phenomenal book. And if you Google me, Toshiba Billings, you will see all the books I've done. You will see, the reviews from this book, which is amazing. I am so blessed that people have taken to this book. I'm in the process of writing a 10th book, Fuck Your Feelings, The Journey to Imperfect Love. Like, I'm a badass. I'm a badass. And so that's the attitude I need to be walking into this single season with. And it's interesting because I was out the other night. So I had dinner with a client, a consulting client, and then someone I've known for a very long time. He said, hey, let's go out and let's hang out. And we ended up going to 4 different places across the city. Had an amazing time. It was the most fun I've had in a really long time. We had an amazing time. We went to like all of these amazing spots in Toronto. None except for one, I hadn't been to any of them, which is crazy for me. And just had a really great time. And I remembered who I was in that moment. I was like, girl, like, this used to be you. This used to be your life. Like, you're, out and about doing your thing. Like, damn, girl, live your best life type thing. And I think I needed that, and I needed this moment to know that I'm walking into this single season as a badass. And I won't use that beep word, but as a badass, and not because of this. I'm not a badass because of this. This means nothing. In the grand scheme of things, there are plenty of women with this. But when I really start thinking about the things I've accomplished, the things I've done, the things I've persevered through, all of those things, yeah, I'm a badass. Because I've done things, I know you don't know anybody else who's done that. And I know that I've done things I don't know anybody else that's done. That makes me a badass. What makes me a badass is the value I brought to my ex and the way I was able to help him realize a lot of the things that he wanted to do, and supported him and guided him and held his hand when he needed to be held, and pushed him a little bit when he needed to push, and pulled him back a little bit when that needed to done, so that he could realize what he was, the man he was. That makes me a badass. This, it's nice. I mean, it is, but that's not what makes me a badass, because there are many of us walking around built like this these days. That means surgeons are building us. So this don't mean nothing. But damn. So that's the attitude I'm going in with this single season with. Girl, you are a badass. And this is why. And it's funny how things can get into your head. Like, I recognize that I'm older. Like, I recognize I'm 43 years old. I'm going to be 44 next month. I'm going to be 44 years old next month. And I still have a moment. I'm like, girl, when did this happen? Like, my daughter graduated from university, 4 years of university. So proud of her. She graduated from 4 years of university last week, Wednesday. And me and her father had a moment where we're like, yay, like, we did it, she's done. And she didn't get pregnant, by the way, because I was pregnant when I graduated. So, woo, we're great parents. And then I also had a moment, we kind of looked at each other and been like, but when did this happen? Like, when did she become 22, which means that we're 22 years older, and what in the heck? Very funny moment me and her father were having, but like, I think about the fact that I get that I'm 44. Like, I get that I'm 44, and so the dating landscape is going to look different. And I've only aged since my last relationship, and COVID has happened, and the world changed so much during COVID, when people were hunkered down, and the different podcasts that started, and the different messages that were going out, and the manosphere or whatever that started, and I think they call it the red pill or blue pill or green pill community. I don't even know what the community is. But there's all of these different narratives that are going around about men and women and the conflict and all of this. And it's something that I try not to get as involved in, because for me, it's about bringing us back together and having community. And because that's important for me, like that community, that coming together. I come from a culture that is about community. My culture, if you've ever met a Jamaican person actually in Jamaica and experienced a Jamaican person in Jamaica, I'm not talking a Jamaican person in North America, I'm talking about a Jamaican person in Jamaica, and seeing how families connect and the community that's built in Jamaica, you will understand what I'm talking about. Like, I come from a culture of community. We really look out for each other. And so I'm focused on building, not breaking apart. And so I'm now in a space where I feel like I'm almost rebuilding myself so I can be better for the community I wish to build. Right? Like, I didn't even realize how much I had internalized some of my failures, right? Like, I think sometimes we forget how you can internalize your failures to mean that there's something deficient in you. And I think that's some part of what I was doing. Like, I wasn't supposed to fail at my last relationship. And even though, again, it's not a failure, and even though, we both looked at the situation and said, this isn't what we thought it would be. And as much as we love each other, we've got to go. Because again, my life is going here and his life is going here. And it's tough running on two different sides to bring them back here. Like, that's not going to happen. But part of me still feels like, girl, you failed. And so this show, thank God, like, this is really my therapy session, because a girl doesn't have $145 an hour. I just don't right now to be paying no therapist. So I come here and I basically talk to all of you and the screen, and I have a therapy session. But I just realized, like, instead of internalizing the stuff that I felt that I failed at, I should be celebrating the things that I've done, the things that I've achieved, like the successes that I've had, the wins that I've had, allowed other people to and go into my next stage with that. Yeah. Huh. So I am going to write a letter. I'm going to write a letter to my past self in the present, and I am going to write a letter to my future self, and I'm probably also going to write a letter to my future husband. I'm going to write a letter to my future husband that I one day hope to share with him. And it's interesting because I look at where I was 3-4 years ago, and if you were to ask me what I wanted in a man 3-4 years ago, what my answer would have been compared to what it is today, the growth that I've been able to have because of my last relationship, because of the last 3.5-4 years, with things that have happened, the things that I've accomplished, starting the show, having these conversations. I'm so proud of my own personal growth. I've heard people say that they've grown because of this show, and I'm so grateful. I think about the fact that I've had this show for 2 years, and like, congratulations about that for myself. But there's been a lot of growth that I've had, and I know as I move forward and I look towards tomorrow, even though sometimes it's tough. It's tough sometimes to think about tomorrow. My biggest fear, I'm about to say this out loud. My biggest fear is dying alone. And I said that to a friend and he laughed. He wasn't trying to be insensitive, but he laughed and he was like, Toshiba, like that's not something you have to worry about. And I was like, why? Like, why do you feel that I don't have to worry about? And he was like, well, because there's always people willing to give you attention, right? And I'm like, yes, but as Rob taught me in this relationship, there's attention and there's intention. I said, I don't worry about attention, but I worry about intention. And I fear that I will die alone. And this does not include my daughter. Our children are not meant to be here to take care of us. I do not subscribe to that. If you do, God bless you and hallelujah to you. It's not something that I subscribe to. It is my job to pour into my daughter so she can in turn pour into my grandchildren and her husband and so forth and so on, right? Like that is my job. My job is not to pour into her so she can pour back into me because I don't make the right decisions in life. That's not her job. If my life is a consequences of the choices that I've made, and if God forbid my biggest fear comes, that is not my daughter's job to alleviate my fear by trying to take it is her job to go forth and be amazing and be great. And I am so blessed to have her and I want her to just go out and live her life. And so it's funny because that's been one of the things I'm trying not to internalize, but have done a really bad job of since the breakup is like, really, girl? Really? You just might die alone. Because, really? Really? Yeah. It's been interesting, this single journey. It's been an interesting one. But I will tell you this. I will be getting back out there. And I'm going to do a poll for you guys to tell me what dating site I should join. It's funny, last week I downloaded a bunch of them and I haven't joined any of them. I was like, let me download them. I went and like researched some and different ones that were on the market since the last time, because it's not just Tinder and Hinge and Bumble. There's all of these other dating sites, and I started like Googling dating sites, and there's now a dating site that will tell you if you cross paths with somebody during the day, which I think is an amazing dating site. So I was like Googling all of these things. There's an exclusive dating site that you have to apply for, and then you get on a wait list. And there's all of these different dating sites that are now around that were not around the last time I was single. And I was like, girl, download the dating sites and get on the dating sites. And I got on none of them. So I am going to do a poll to ask you guys what dating sites you think I should join, and if you have any recommendations for any dating sites. I almost think that like I would be better off if like somebody set me up. But I don't think that's gonna happen. But if you guys are interested and you want to set me up, let a girl know. But I do think that part of my single season is having to get back out there. This show was a kick in the ass. This show again did not turn out how I thought it was supposed to be. I guess my shows never do. I start on this like path and it goes somewhere different. But this show just made me realize like, damn girl, you really are a badass. You really are a badass. Not because of the way you look, but because of the way you took the last few years and kicked its ass. When things got tough for me, I didn't just lay down. I said, okay, girl, this is what we gonna do. And again, I got 2 shows out of it, a radio show, 9 books, developed my consulting business. I've helped hundreds of entrepreneurs. Like I have kicked ass. I got to a relationship. I took my man from where he was and brought him up. He sat here on this couch for a year and a half and told you, not this particular couch, although we did also have a blue couch, right? can you tell that I chose that couch? But you know, like I was able to do so much, and I am such a badass. And that's how I'm walking into the rest of this single season, is that I am a badass and I am deserving of everything that comes to me. And that's the attitude I want a lot of you to have. Instead of thinking about the things that haven't happened, think about the things that you've done. Think about the things that you've achieved. Again, like I wrote this book months after writing my sixth book in 6 months. Like, again, I wrote 7 books in 363 days. I have 9 books on the market. 9. You Google me on Amazon. I'm on Barnes and Noble. I'm on Kobo. I've seen my books in Walmart.com. Like, you Google me, I'm not on here shaking my ass. And my OnlyFans, name my OnlyFans that's popping up. Shout out to the OnlyFans girls. I ain't one. But that's not what pops up when you Google me. This is what pops up. I have created a legacy for myself during a period when the world was at its darkest. And so for that, I'm a badass. And that's what I'm going to focus on. And I'm going to have to release myself of any feelings of failure that I've had from this relationship not working out. Any feelings of failure, because damn, I've done a lot. And so that's the attitude I'm walking into the single season with. And thank you for all of you that joined me to having me go through that moment of like, girl, okay, you did that. You did that. And you're going to continue to kick ass out here in a world, again, a world that wants me to be average when I was born rare. Hey, Twin Sync. Twin Sync, you were out here. You missed part of the show. I had a moment of realizing what a badass I was. I was out here moping and having woes are me moment. And I had to really think about everything I've done in the last 4 years. And I am going to encourage all of you. And it's funny because I remember, it's funny what we do as parents sometimes that we don't do for ourselves. I remember when my daughter was having a moment in her dance career, and this was a few years ago, and she felt like, you know, all these people were elevating, but she wasn't elevating. And I told her, I challenged her, I said, you know what? Write down everything you've done, every award you've won, every competition you've been in, everything you've done since you started dancing. And when you're done, tell me how you feel after that list. And I remember she came home and she was like, Mommy, oh my God. Like, it changed everything for her because her brain was focusing on, all the things I haven't done and all the, instead of focusing on all the things that she's done, the stages she's been on, the competition she's won, how she elevated herself. She could go again on YouTube and Google and see herself all across on YouTube with different dances as first place, like all of these things that she's done. And that's what we need to do for ourselves sometimes. It's so tough because we have to wire our minds. And again, through this period of grief that I've been going through, it's been tough to wire my mind in a way that I'm focusing on all of the amazing things that are happening instead of going through. And I guess that's why they call it, stages of grief, because our minds are focusing on what's back there, all the things that back there, all the lost hopes and the lost dreams. And again, ain't nobody want to deal with you while you're going through that. And so I just had a moment of realizing, girl, you have done things you don't know anybody else has done. Again, 7 books in 363 days. During COVID, while I was watching the CNN ticker talk about all of the people that were dying in the world. Again, Google me. This book was a labor of love. And I kicked ass when I wrote this book. And then I started 2 shows and I got a radio show and I, again, helped hundreds of entrepreneurs, Black entrepreneurs that look like you and I, elevate their businesses. I got the testimonials to prove it. That's what I need to be focusing on. Talking about, girl, you lost your man. And girl, your wedding date is not going to happen. And girl, who's going to love you potentially? You're 43, about to be 44. And girl, oh no. Just so we know, all you men watching, you would be lucky to have me. You would be lucky to have me. And again, not because of this, because this gonna fade and women are buying this. So there's bigger, better, smaller, whatever than me out there, but that this is not it. This, and I also wash this off at night. So this isn't it. But you're lucky to have me because I have the qualities that you would want in your daughter, and the qualities you would want in a wife, and the quality your mother and father would want. That when they close their eyes, they know that there's a woman out there that's going to take care of you the way that I take care of the men in my life. And that is why you would be lucky to have me. And so I'm gonna keep going through the single season. Because at the end of it, I'm gonna, my man, the hell out of you guys. My man. I'm gonna, my man. But I am going to go through the single season, and I am going to kick ass during the single season, and I'm going to take no prison during the single season, and I'm gonna keep my legs as closed as they are right now. Just so you know, it's 7 months and counting. 7 months and counting. They are closed, locked up. It is a vault. Because you can kick ass, ladies, during your single season without giving ass. Just so you know, you can kick ass during single season without giving ass. Trust and believe it can happen. It can. It's called boundaries. I've set them. I've let people know we are not going to go there, and feel free to go over there to the woman who's going to give you what you want, because I am not there with you, sweetie. So if you set boundaries, you'd be surprised what would happen. So kicking ass without giving ass during my single season is going to be my thing. But I'm ready. I'm going to do this. It's been 3.5 months. I don't know how much longer it's going to be. But based on the poll, let me end this show. Like, based on the poll, some of y'all are savage. So if you don't know, I did a poll earlier today, and I was asking people about how long it took to get over their last breakup. And I'm out here thinking that, oh no, it's taking people a while. So I asked 4. So the 4 options were immediately, 3 to 6 months, 6 months to a year, and the last option was get over, ? What is that? As in, girl, I'm still trying to get over my last breakup. When I saw the poll, that 56% of you said you immediately got over your last breakup, I was like, how, Sway? In my Kanye. How, Sway? How are you guys doing that? I thought I was savage, but 56%, and then the other 44%, which is probably where I am, said 6 months to a year. But immediately, like, what are y'all doing? Like, how? Like, good for you, though. Good for those of you who got kicked to the curb or kicked your ex to the curb, and then you were like, I am done. But I sometimes question if that immediately was you thought you were over them, but the reality you were still connected to them. Because how? I don't know. Like, that's savage. I just don't. Or do people think that they're over someone because they're sleeping with someone else? Like, because sleeping with someone else does not mean that you're over that person. Like, just because I've got some man pounding me does not mean that I'm going to be over Rob. That means nothing. If just because Rob pounds somebody else does not mean that he's over me. It means that he's physically giving himself to someone else, and I'm physically giving myself to someone else. Like, is that why some of you said? I don't know, because I was flabbergasted. I'm gonna have to do some research into that. But good for you guys, because I am 3.5 months in, and I'm like, woosah. Like, woo-sa, girl. I'm meditating, working out, drinking, lots of water, and minding my damn business through this. And working on my 10th book. Again, Fuck Your Feelings, The Journey to Imperfect Love, coming spring of 2024. So let me actually go deal with that. I appreciate you guys. This show started off very somber. Again, happy birthday to my daddy, and rest in peace. Today would have been my father's 79th birthday. had he not passed away, and I had a moment of silence for him. But as I did this show, once again, Rob used to say all the time, this was therapy for us, and this has definitely become therapy for me. And whether there is one of you watching, 10, 100, it doesn't matter. I come here and I am able to bare my soul, and you guys listen to me, and I appreciate it. I really am trying to change the conversation in Black relationships. And I think in order to do so, I have to show you the honest, vulnerable parts of me. I have to be as honest and as raw as I possibly can. You can't trust anybody who's fake. There was nothing fake about when Rob and I were together. You saw two genuine people who loved each other, who really fought hard to stay together, and love was just not enough. And now you're watching me go through this very difficult public journey, as a lot of aspects of my life have changed, and I'm always going to give it to you real. You can ask me any questions, like, again, YouTube is an interesting place. I get the worst comments on YouTube. People tell me the craziest things on YouTube, but I appreciate you, YouTube. Please keep subscribing. But like, you know what, I have opened myself up in a way that I have been ridiculed, I've been praised, I've been a lot of things, but this is what you do when you open up your world. But the one thing I said I was going to do is be real. And I'm always going to be real. So thank you, everyone, for allowing me to keep that promise to myself, to be real with myself and be real with you, and talk about this love thing and this relationship thing and how amazing it can be. But also that anytime you love someone, you give them the opportunity to hurt you, and that's the tough part. Is you do give someone the opportunity to hurt you. And again, in this lovely book here, which you should all get, No Handouts for Black Girls by Mua, my 7th book, again, published it 363 days from the first one I published. But again, I digress. Like, honestly, self-promotion, amazing. But I remember writing this book, talking about the fact that when I met Rob, it was like standing naked in front of him, holding my heart and giving it to him and praying that he didn't drop it. Like, that's what that love felt like. And I knew that falling in love with him, that if that did not work and I had to put the heart back together, that it was going to be difficult. And so I'm not ashamed to say that I completely loved someone wholly and completely and gave them everything. And because of that, I'm having to repair, because he didn't fumble my heart, but I had to put it back together. And so I love love. I love the concept of love. I especially love Black love. I think Black love is beautiful and amazing. And when two Black people can come together, I think we can do amazing things. And I look forward to having that love again for the last time, because I'm not doing this shit again. Like, I'm not going through another public breakup in front of none of y'all. Like, when y'all meet, and maybe the next man y'all meet is going to be when I tell y'all I'm about to get married, and whatever the case might be. So I don't know, man. I don't know if I can go through another public breakup, if I'm honest with you. Like, that statement that I had to put out when we broke up was hella hard. So I don't know if I want to do it again, but I am going to my man the hell out of you guys. Once I am once again ready to give my heart naked, as I stand in front of him naked with my heart in my hand, praying that he doesn't drop it, because I think when you give of yourself in that way, it's a beautiful thing, and I wish it for all of you. So thank you all. Thank you, YouTube, for those of you watching. Thank you for Instagram for those of you watching. I bid you peace. I do believe that if you bring a little fuck your feelings into your life, it can actually save your relationship and make it better. So look out for the book. I will see you next week. Have an amazing week, and God bless you all. And again, happy birthday to my daddy. Rest in peace. Bye, YouTube.